started writing poetry last year, the end of my sophomore year, for an art class where we had to do a project where we either had to sing a song, act out a play, or just write out a poem, something simple. And I ended up writing I Am No Longer a Mexican, just after 2 constant hours the day before it was due of just angry pent-up emotion of realizing just how suppressed my culture had been. And then after that, for a year straight, I had just been editing that and then using things that I added into that and then adding it into different poems, and then eventually I just had a whole giant document of just poems, and that led to LTAB, and that led to spoken word, and that just led to a whole bunch of other things. The story behind I Am No Longer Mexican was writing about it for an art class, and then also the project was to write something that meant a lot to you. And what meant a lot to me was, especially, I was going through a time when I realized that I don't really have an identity, a sense. I kind of felt like if I had to choose between being Anglo-Mexican, where I'm just influenced by American culture, or hold on to my heritage and be a Mexican. But then I also realized that a lot of where I grew up in what a lot of people would call a ghetto is really just doesn't really have a future. So I felt like if I didn't really have a choice, and that just made me angry because I realized a lot of other races and a lot of other ethnicities don't have to make that choice. So why do I have to make that choice? And I ended up putting it on paper, and I just fell in love with it. In the future, I definitely want to focus on poetry, but then also I want to go to college, get my degree, and then also work a lot with activism for feminism and then also for minorities. And I'm definitely thinking about going into either being an English teacher or a social worker to help a lot of people that are going through this also, like just this internal emotional distress, and to be able to have a way to plug it in and then also to speak it out and just give the world a broader sense of mind than we actually have now. Some advice for kids in high school that are struggling through cultural distress and then just high school in general. Find a place to plug all of that into. Like for me it was poetry, but it was also soccer, and it was also writing and just English in general. So just find something that makes you feel weightless, but also like if you can have the entire weight of the world depending on you and you're perfectly okay with that. Like, find something that just makes you happy and that you can do it without thinking, something that just feels so flawless even if it's not flawless, but you just feel flawless doing it. Find something that makes you feel like Beyonce.